when the IB came out with its statement, and I think that might have been maybe in March 2023, where they had quite a clear stance that AI was going to be a really powerful tool for innovation. However, we'd have to make sure that if we were using AI, that it was cited correctly. For us, that was a really pivotal moment, because for us, it meant AI was going to be a really important part of our programs moving forward. Early champions who were just so excited and started sharing what they were doing to help them with differentiation, and that the teachers were starting to use it, the kids were starting to use it, and they were starting to ask for direction. The committee decided we need to have an overarching policy. We've got to set the direction for this. That stance was we wanted to innovate, but safety and ethics were really, really important.
Welcome to the AI in IB Schools podcast, Strategic Leadership Conversations for the Tech Revolution. I'm Rachel Bodily, and alongside my co-host, Rita Bateson, who is a former IB curriculum manager and a founding head of an IB continuum school in Dublin. We're excited to have you join us as we chat with school leaders from around the IB world, uncovering their best practices, innovative approaches, and real-life stories of AI integration. Hi, and welcome. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the AI in IB Schools podcast. I'm Rachel Bodily, one of the co-hosts of the podcast, and I have here with me in this episode, Carol Jordan. Carol is the deputy head of school at the Canadian International School in Singapore, and we're really excited in this podcast. She's going to share how she's been really spearheading an ambitious yet cautious school-wide AI strategy at the Canadian International School in Singapore. We're going to explore some of the early conversations that turned AI from a spark of curiosity into a transformative cultural shift, and hear from Carol about her top insights on balancing innovation, ethics, and real-world impacts in our classrooms and our IB classrooms today. So Carol, hi, great to have you here. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And thank you for the invitation, Rachel. Really excited to be able to share our journey. I'm sure that our journey will resonate with many of the people who are going to be, watching or listening to this podcast.
Wonderful. And I think I would love to start, Carol, just by telling us a little bit about you, about your background. Where have you sort of been around the world, the roles that you have held as well?
Yeah. My husband and I, we kind of fell into international school teaching, over 25 years ago. Started in Venezuela. Originally, I was a diploma teacher. I taught chemistry. I taught ecosystems and society. And for the last 28 years or so, we've been traveling around the world. We've been in Venezuela and Poland and China and Thailand, now in Singapore. Over that time, I've been a DP coordinator. I've been an IBIN member since, probably for last 15 to 20 years, as a workshop leader, as an examiner, as an accreditation, authorization visitor. And I'm now currently the deputy head at the Canadian International School in Singapore. I think it hasn't been verified, but we think it's true that we are the largest IB school in the world. We offer the PYP, MYP, and the DP to close to 3,000 students.
Wow.
And we're a really well-established, IB continuum school.
Yes, wonderful. And it sounds like you've definitely worn every hat there is to wear. That's one of the reasons I wanted you on the podcast. And another reason I wanted you on it is oftentimes I've been talking to schools who have their director of teaching and learning working together with their ed tech specialist. And the two of them are kind of implementing this AI strategy and figuring the whole AI storm out together. But you're sitting in a deputy head role. And you're doing this. So I really wanted to bring on your perspective and your take as well. And about the largest IB school in the world, I think other schools might be upset you said that, but let's figure it out. I think we should we're going to have to do another episode where we figure out if indeed the Canadian school is the largest. Could be, Carol. Let's just go for it. Let's say it is the largest in the world. No, that's wonderful. I think I would love to start, Carol, by just hearing about, I know you've been in this role since the inception of, large language model use. That was in November, October of 2022. And you've been in this role since then. Is that correct?
I have, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've really seen it from the start until now. And so I'd love for you just to sort of talk to us about that. Talk to us about what did it look like in the beginning, just 2.5 years ago? And, how did your school approach it in the beginning?
Yeah. So I think very early on, probably was it late 2022, I think, when we started to hear about, these large language models. ChatGPT came on the horizon. And we were just trying to find out everything that we could about it. Folks were, we did a raise of hands in our senior leadership team, and most people had played around with ChatGPT. A couple of keen people had paid versions of it. And we were starting to recognize that this could really potentially transform education. So we started a process of trying to learn everything that we could about it. Primarily, it was our ed tech team, myself. There were lots of webinars and thought leaders and so on. And so we really just started to try and find out as much as possible about where this potentially could be heading. Yeah. So that's kind of where it all kind of started. I think for us as a school, I think what was a kind of a major turning point for us, because at first we were really cautious. We weren't sure. We could see that this was a really exciting innovation that could potentially transform education. But we were also, our early cautions were around academic integrity.
Yep. Like many schools. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were kind of a little bit cautious about that. And I think when the IB came out with its statement, and I think that might have been maybe in March 2023, where they had quite a clear stance that AI was going to be a really powerful tool for innovation. However, we'd have to make sure that if we were using AI, that it was cited correctly. For us, that was a really pivotal moment, because for us, it meant AI was going to be a really important part of our programs moving forward. And what it did is it made us kind of stop and look at our academic integrity policy. And we just, our very first, if you think about policy, and I think about policy as about setting the direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just put a very simple little statement in our academic integrity policy saying that if, students used AI, it would have to be referenced appropriately. And that was kind of our very first kind of piece of work we did in terms of setting the direction for AI. Then what we found is things were moving quite quickly. We have a committee. It's called our Tech and Digital Resource Committee. That's our ed tech team. We've got some leaders on that from both academic and operations. And it's what we've found, it's been really good having this oversight committee in the school, because what we do is we help set direction for tech innovation. We also make decisions about tools that we're going to use as well. And also we're a committee, we've always been very driven about safety first. Safety certainly around protecting personal data.
Yep.
And so we've got this oversight committee as well. But what we were finding is that teachers were starting to innovate and use AI, the free tools that were out there, and we're getting really, really excited.
Of course.
We had really early champions who were just so excited and started sharing what they were doing to help them with differentiation and things like that. And for us as leaders, what we found is that we were really trying to catch up. The teachers were really driving it. We knew the kids were using it.
Yeah.
We had, was it last year when we did our PYP exhibition, our MYP personal project, kids were doing projects on AI.
Yeah, and of course they were, right? Yeah.
And the adults in the room were standing around kind of looking at this, particularly the leaders. We were really slower than the kids and slower than the teachers. And so we realized that the teachers were starting to use it, the kids were starting to use it, and they were starting to ask for direction around what can we use? What's appropriate use? And so that really, for us as a kind of a committee, as a leadership committee, overseeing technology, we realize that we need to set a direction for this.
Yeah. Yeah. Or the kids are going to set it themselves, right?
Exactly. Yeah. They were using it. We were struggling with students misusing it in assignment work. So kind of probably at the beginning of this year, the committee decided we need to have an overarching policy. We've got to set the direction for this. And we started networking. I think networking with different schools, I think, is really important. We've got a fabulous network here in Singapore and also within the broader Air Coast region, just finding out what other schools were doing, and so we, as a committee, we realized we had to set a direction, a policy. And what we did really well is, before jumping in and deciding what tools we're going to be doing, we established a really clear stance for AI.
Yeah.
And that was really important. And that stance was, we wanted to innovate, but safety and ethics were really, really important. We had to center everything that we did around those two things.
Yeah. And I want to pause you there. So when you say the start of the year, that was August 2024. So that was the start of this school year.
Yes.
This clear stance, how did you, A, come up with it? B, where does it sit, in your culture? Do you feel like it's embedded in the culture yet? Was there a professional development around it? What was the implementation of that clear stance on AI? And then how did you sort of make sure that was permeated throughout the entire community?
Yeah.
Or is that something you're still working on?
Right? Definitely still working on it. I think the stance about ethical use, and when I'm talking about ethical use, what's the right way to use it? We know that AI is very powerful in terms of how it can support research, how it can support feedback. We're a school that has really done a huge amount of work around ATLs. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, we knew that this was going to shift the way we teach ATL. So it made us think, this is particularly in secondary, it was going to really shift the way we think about ATLs and how we teach ATLs, and what does the teaching of thinking skills look like now? What does the teaching of research look like now? And so that helped inform a kind of a more ethical stance, because teachers were starting to question, what's going to be the right way to teach this? What feedback is appropriate and what's not appropriate. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of a really big driver. Also, the safety aspect as well was really important. Many of the tools that came out very early on required parent permission. Mm-hmm. And so we were using a lot of teacher-facing tools, but we were really limited in our ability to be able to start using it with students because of the parent permission. Mm-hmm. So a really early piece we had to do, that the committee did early on, was actually put in our student contract. And we have quite a extensive student contract that's tied to, Singaporean contract law and so on.
Something, Carol, is that something that the students sign every year? Or is that when they first are admitted to the school that they sign that?
Parents every year, they sign a contract when they renew they want to come back to the school. Yeah. And so that was a really important piece that we had to put in the contract. To be able to use AI and move forward, we had to be able to put into the contract that the school will make the decision about the most safe and appropriate educational use of AI tools. And we're not going to ask for your permission. You're basically going to give us permission to make those decisions. That was huge piece for us, because we were unable. Teachers were wanting to try different tools, but it required parent permission, and so that was a really big piece as well. So I think that kind of stance, I think it was part of our culture already. Mm-hmm. And it was just kind of elevating that. We already had we kind of knew the why it was important to pay attention to safety, why it was important to pay attention to ethics, how paying attention to them is important in terms of innovation as well. So I think that culture was already there in the school. I think it was just important to elevate that, to remind people of that as kind of part of this new journey that we were going to be on. So that wasn't difficult for us to do. Because the culture was there,
And you mentioned to elevate it and remind people of that, about safety and ethics, right? Because you have your senior leadership team, it sounds like they were moving pretty fast. I mean, given to hear how much you as a senior leadership team initially came together and really tried to explore tools on your own, given the limited time I assume you all had, was great. But then you noticed, the teachers are moving even faster than us. And then the students are moving exponentially faster than everyone, right? So how did what did that actually look like in practice to elevate what you said, the safety and the ethics bit? And how are you doing it with the teachers? But what does it look like with the students specifically?
Yeah. So I think one of the key things that we did is we have this wonderful PLC process in the secondary school. And the teachers decide what kind of PLC groups they want to have. And this is the second year of our PLCs. This is the second year of our PLC around an AI PLC, which is our largest PLC in secondary. We've got a research PLC. We've got an assessment PLC. They were real drivers for us because they were asking for the direction. And they, in a sense, the teachers were the ones wanting that, and kind of saying, you've got to get moving on this, right? And so a lot of it was actually driven by the teachers being aware that these were the needs that they had. In order to be able to innovate, they needed some guidelines. They needed a clear stance from us. Once they had that, they would work within that. And that's where it originally came from. I kept in touch. I'm the chair of our tech committee. I kept in touch really at the ground level with the teachers and what they were doing. So they were doing that. At the same time, the teachers were also really aware that students are using this as well. So the PLC not only were working and helping us and saying we need policy, we need direction. They gave us some ideas of the kind of direction that they were looking for. They also realized that students need AI literacy was huge, not only for students, but also for teachers. And they actually have developed some AI literacy lessons that they're going to use in advisory.
That's great.
Sessions.
That's wonderful. And how did they find the time to do that?
Well, we gave time, as part of, we have a PD every Wednesday at the school, and time is intentionally given for the PLCs.
How much time is that each Wednesday, Carol?
We have an hour every Wednesday, but not all of it was PLC work. It was driven by our MYP and DP coordinators. They were fantastic, and both of them had a really nice structured process for the PLC, right, with clear deliverables and milestones and reporting back. And so I think this work was really important because it got us going, but they also helped us as well. So I think that's really helped. We've been much slower in primary. We've got teachers trying different tools. But kids haven't been using it as much. At the moment in our PYP program. But we've got teachers trialing different tools at the moment and giving us feedback.
And it sounds like this, the school has really nailed it, right? Because in my opinion, there's really three parts. You need that top-down structure and that guidance, right? And that policy and that tell us what to do. There's definitely a little bit of that, which some schools are lacking that. Some schools are saying, okay, the teachers are going to figure it out. on their own, and we'll see what happens, and it will come of itself. But there's also that bottom up of, you've got some teachers who are really motivated and who are going out there and doing it themselves. But then you've got wonderful leadership in the middle. Your middle leaders are fantastic too. So I think it's sort of a combination of those three. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's everyone working together. I think it's really important for school leaders to stay really in touch with with teachers, how they're using it, what their needs are. We're just, we're touching really just touching the surface of this. And, one of the things, teachers are very happy with the direction that we've now set. We know that we've got a really solid, I guess, ethos around innovation, but being safe and ethical. We also want to be sustainable. We're having conversations about the carbon footprint. We don't know what that looks like at the moment. We really don't, but we've put it in our policy that we want to use it sustainably, yet to figure out what that is meant to mean. But we've created a stance there. We've taken a stand as a school. We now have to figure out what that looks like. What the teachers now know is, now the direction is there. What they now know is we've got to now sit down within our individual programs and figure out what that looks like in practice.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the work moving forward for them. What does it look like in terms of report card comments? How are we going to use AI? What's it going to look like in assessment?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have, that's the next work. They're going to have to figure that out within their own programs, what that's going to look like.
Is the school thinking about taking an approach of per subject group, and with the different departments that they're going to do it that way? Or are you thinking of a school-wide framework for the implementation of this, or you're not sure yet?
I think what will happen is, each program and different grade levels will have different needs. I think what's important is to find out what are the needs across the school, and in what ways are they going to be the same, and what ways are they going to be different. That tends to be how we approach it. What it looks like when you're 5 years old is very different to what it looks like when you're 18 years old. And so I think this is where I think professional development becomes really important. Yesterday, we had a wonderful sharing of the different tools that teachers are using, teachers teaching teachers, where teachers across the school are sharing different tools that they're trialing, how they're finding it. I think that's going to be a really important part of it. And learning from one another. As well.
And I think too, there's two things I wanted to follow up with you on regarding that. And you talked earlier about referencing appropriately. Have you seen any really best use scenarios or best practices in that yet in classrooms of how teachers are going about that? Or are they really taking that process journal approach?
Yeah, I think we are. We actually had a conversation about what that looks like. I think what we're, think about what it's going to look like over the coming year. And we're already starting to see this. Teachers are starting to do more assessments in class. They're starting to focus more on the process and doing that process in class. I talked to teachers yesterday at our PD session, a lot more conferring with students during class, talking to them about their learning. This is kind of where we're going at the moment, is we're trying to figure it out. Worries about plagiarism detection tools. I had a conversation the other day with our DP coordinator. They're just about to submit assessments for this round of diploma students, and still worried.
I mean, the number of the DP coordinators that were coming to the booth at the IBGC Singapore was insane, because they said, how can I stand behind this if I'm not sure?
Right. And our DP coordinator, we had a student who'd had a number of academic integrity infractions. Not necessarily related to AI, but, the coordinator really worried. Teachers do not want to be able to sign off on this work. They're concerned.
Yeah.
What do we do? What do we do?
Makes sense too. No, and I think you brought up this curriculum piece, and this is what I love, and this is what I'm so excited about, because, I think that a lot of people keep talking about tools and are excited about the tools, and I think a lot of schools are still there. They're still discovering tools. I go back to your bio that you had sent me. You, right now in your role, you are doing teaching and learning, strategy, policy development, inclusion, ed tech, compliance, accreditation, safeguarding, professional development, right? And then you're also driving the AI strategy. You probably don't want me to do it like this, but I'm so excited to hear your take around curriculum. Like you know all the pieces to make a school function, and you're doing them all right now in practice. And I want to break it down into two pieces of kind of, and I know that the work is happening now. What do you sort of envision for 2 or 3 years from now? And the two pieces I want to break it down to is the written curriculum around this, and then also the taught, and that in practice, that best practice that you were talking about as well. What do you kind of envision or see happening, or what would be maybe an ideal scenario with those two pieces?
Yeah, I think for both teachers and I think for both students, in terms of the curricular piece, I think it's AI literacy.
Yeah.
Whether there is, do I imagine in the future there are, competency standards, for example. I think that's going to be really, really important moving forward, because we know that, AI is going to help teachers enormously. It's going to help them with curriculum planning. A lot. It's going to create, a lot of efficiencies with many of the things that teachers do, that leaders do. Is it going to make timetabling easier? Those kinds of things as well, and for students as well. So I think definitely programs around AI literacy for both teachers and students, I think, are going to have to be really, really important part. Moving forward in terms
that vertical alignment, right, of those programs.
Absolutely.
And then you kept going back to the ethics and the safeguarding piece too. So I think for me, those are really the big three that have to be in place in every school. The literacy, ethics, and safeguarding. How is the school going to find time to go about building that?
Yeah, I mean, we have, we have programs. We use Common Sense Media. We have ISTE standards. We've got a number of we've already got kind of digital literacy kind of embedded within our programs anyway, through our advisory program, through, our homerooms in the PYP. So it's going to be a matter of kind of reframing those with AI literacy in mind, and what does that kind of look like? We're already starting to kind of think about that, secondary teachers already, they've already got 3 lessons already prepared for advisory classes. So I think that's going to be really important part of that. And I imagine that's how it's going to be taught. I think it's going to be really important within the MYP and the DP. What does that look like? Teachers need to be aware. What does that look like in your subject? We've established a kind of a usage scale as well, which I think has been really, really important for students and teachers. So kids know how you're going to use AI in this particular work. So that's something that we've kind of established and going to start using as well.
Can you speak more to that? Is that really sort of like the adopted Leon Foyer's assessment scale? Is that sort of what it's like from no AI to full-blown creation with AI? Now, did you choose 4 levels? Did you choose 5 levels?
We chose, let me have a look.
You can remember. You might need to go find it.
I think it was 4. I think it might have been 4 levels.
Yeah. What's the adoption of that looked like? I'm curious.
Well, I think we haven't adopted it yet. I think what is important, we put it in our policy, that it is important that students know what is appropriate use and how you're going to be using AI and different kinds of learning engagements and types of assessment. We put it into our academic integrity and policy as well, and that teachers have to be aware within their own discipline what that looks like for students. And so we've established that. Now we've got to figure out what does that actually look like in practice.
Yeah.
Right. So that was part of our policy, that we actually have that and we use it, and teachers are required to use it to be able to guide students.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you mentioned, I want to get into also the best practice. So
yeah,
obviously the PLCs are going to really play a big part in this, but what is the school thinking about, or you thinking about as one of the leaders of this, entire project, I guess you would call it? It's more than a project. It's really changing teaching and learning entirely. What is the vision for taught curriculum and best practice in classrooms?
Yeah, so I think what we're doing at the moment, we're still trying to figure all of this out. I think the potential for AI, and teachers have already seen this, to be able to support differentiation, personalized learning is huge. We can all see that. It's plain to see, and so I think that's where I think we're going to do a lot of our work. What does that actually look like around student agency? How does it support student agency?
Yeah. And
so that's something that we're going to have to really dig into. Teachers are already using it to help differentiate in instruction, reading levels, all sorts of things like that. So I think that's going to be really important in terms of approaches to teaching.
Yeah.
Differentiation, we're going to have to look at it in terms of assessment as well. So all of those approaches to teaching are things we're going to have to work on. One of the things we're doing at the moment is looking at a variety of different AI tools, different platforms, and we're looking at Magic School and OpenAI, and we've got teachers, we're already using AI enhanced Padlet. And so we're looking at these different tools at the moment. We've got our tech team and our committee looking at it like from a big oversight level. We've got teachers trialing these tools. A lot of the tools at the moment are still very much teacher facing as well. But that's definitely the work for us kind of moving forward.
Yeah.
What does it kind of look like in terms of approaches to teaching? I think teachers will be really driving this because they're going to be using it and talking about how they're using it. In some ways, we're kind of fortunate at our school because we're a really well-established IB school and a 3-program IB school. We kind of get IB philosophy. We kind of know what the best practice is, where we need to be kind of looking.
Yeah.
And so in that regard, it's easier. The teachers don't need as much direction because they kind of get it.
Yeah.
The program is so much part of who we are as a school. Yeah. But I was just thinking back to a previous school that I was in that was new to the IB and adopting the programs, and that it was a lot harder, to really shift practice and really focus on those approaches to teaching and also the approaches to learning. So it's going to be an additional difficult layer, I think, for our newer IB schools, the upskilling of teachers.
Yeah, and I think especially when you start with inquiry, it's really easy to adjust your lesson plans, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
So, and IB teachers know that. We all know that. It's really easy to go in a completely different direction than what you had written from last year. And my argument too is, like, I think if an assessment is more than 2 years old, you probably need to redesign it.
Yeah.
What's your stance on that? Just the curriculum that was designed 2 years ago. Or 3 years ago. Do you have any sort of stance on that either?
Well, we do. I mean, we do. And exactly as you said, I mean, because we are, our approaches to teaching are so embedded, it's easier for us. I think in some ways it's made it easier for teachers to be able to innovate as well and jump in and try new tools. Every year we evaluate we have an evaluation process by looking at the program of inquiry and the PYP. We look at, the units in the MYP, and we kind of update them. We reflect on them. How can we make them better next year? So it's kind of part of what we do as a school.
That's
so in
great.
that regard, it's kind of easier for us to kind of do that, to think that we, just teach the same thing every year. We kind of don't have that mentality at our school. So in that regard, it's kind of easier.
That's really helpful, right? And do you think there will be any sort of top-down PD that comes in, and when that the school develops maybe internally or externally, that says, look, let's focus on the approaches to teaching, or personalizing learning with AI, or differentiation with AI? Or do you think that will kind of surface out of the work that's being done amongst the teachers?
I think definitely. I mean, one of the things that we have got teachers at all different levels of use and levels of comfort. We've got the early adopters who are jumping in and trying things, and they come from all different departments. We've got those that are a little bit more cautious, the ones that want to say, okay, I need some really clear guidelines first before I'm going to jump into this, and our policy and our guidelines will give them that kind of assurance. So differentiated PD is going to be really, really important for that. And there's going to be a need for a lot more PD. I was just looking today at the offerings from Iblana Learning as well, lots of different kinds of PD and training options for staff. I think it's going to be, schools are going to have to look and put together a PD plan.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
And teachers will need different things, and leaders will need different things.
Yeah.
And some teachers will want, and some leaders will want just something that's much more informational. Others are innovating and wanting to try new tools. This is where my involvement in Learning 2 has been amazing. I mean, this is such a great conference, because what it's a conference for teachers who are innovating and doing really exciting things and sharing that with others in a kind of a workshop setting, where teachers can actually get hands-on. There's definitely teachers that want that and are ready for that. So PD is going to be huge. Schools are going to have to put aside and strategically plan for AI related PD, and it's not a one and done thing.
No, and I'm glad to hear you say that. And I think what we're really trying to do at Iblana is to help schools go from reactive to proactive, and give them the PD that they can then maybe differentiate themselves or choose different modules or learning paths. But if it's all there already, that's already going to save a lot of time on the research and the development of that curriculum, or whatever the PD is that they need as well. I do want to talk about Learning 2 also just for a second, because I've been to a Learning 2 conference and they're wonderful. And I wonder, in your household, because your husband co-founded or founded Learning 2, I think there's probably a lot of tech talk that happens in your household and has been happening for a decade or more, right? So
absolutely.
Do you want to speak more to that and how you kind of see that intersection potentially, what you feel like Learning 2 brings as well, in addition to what you just mentioned?
I think Learning 2 is unique because, it's a conference run by teachers for teachers. And so I think what's been fantastic about Learning 2, it's always had a tech focus right from the early days, but it's also a conference that social is a really important way of learning, and so it's really interesting looking at the applications for the conference that's going to be in Hanoi in November. We had more applications than we've ever received. We also had, most of those applications were tech focused, and the large majority of them were AI focused.
That's great.
And it's teachers doing some incredibly, cool stuff. And, over the years, we've seen how that how tech has changed in education. Back in the early days, 15 years ago, it was about blogging and making movies and things like that. Then we had a real design focus, robotics focus. Now we're definitely moving into kind of the AI era.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, many of the teachers who present at Learning 2, they go on to become, thought leaders in their field in international schools. And they become known for their innovative approaches and so on. So it's going to be really exciting.
That's great. And I would say I absolutely loved going to that conference the time that I did go, and it was wonderful. It's so fun and invigorating seeing what your colleagues have come up with, on top of their full-time jobs. It's a wonderful conference, highly recommended. And I had two more questions for you, Carol. And the first, I feel like, this conversation seemed that Canadian International School in Singapore is sort of perfect. What has been the main challenge so far in terms of AI? I think there's so many, the ducks are in a line in so many places, right? Yeah. But what has been the challenge, maybe one of the biggest challenges that the school has faced in terms of the AI adoption and integration?
I think it might sound as though it's perfect. It's definitely not.
Of course not.
I've been driving it because of my role, and I've stepped up to drive it. I've always been a really early adopter of technology as well. And I just, I was just saying to Simon, my husband, I wish I was teaching right now. I think it's such an exciting time in education.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'd love to be a teacher again. I'd love to try out some, this is amazing. I think one of the challenges we've had is bringing on board some of our other leaders in the school.
Yeah.
Principals and vice principals. They're busy with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
This is moving really, really fast. It can be really quite overwhelming for them, particularly if they're not, savvy tech adopters. So it has been hard. You definitely need someone in senior leadership who understands it from a strategic level, a setting direction level, and knows how to implement that, because senior leaders are going to need help.
Yes. They're slammed. They don't have enough time either, right? No, I was just going to say the last thing I wanted to end the podcast on too was, what would be your then one piece of advice for a school that maybe doesn't have all of these pieces of the puzzle fitting together, or they're a new IB school, or they're still stuck on like, we're drafting a policy, help. What would be sort of your piece of advice moving forward? Is it about that senior leadership team in that role, or is it maybe something else?
I think get help if you need it. I think it's really, really important. I think it's important to identify some really key people in the school who can help drive this forward and that you trust. Lean on your networks. Lean on, other thought partners. Get help with this, because I think for many leaders, for those that are a little bit slower with tech adoptions, this seems as though it's moving so fast.
It is.
So fast. And it's paralyzing. It's paralyzing. And I think it's innovate, but be slow and cautious and thoughtful, and get help if you need it. We didn't do this all on our own. We sought help. We've been networking. We've been grabbing any opportunity for professional development that we could. We've been seeking out, professional development opportunities.
Yeah.
And knowing you need to make it part of your strategy moving forward. If it's not there, it needs to be written in. It needs to be part of it. And it's not an add-on. It's how does it interact with everything else that you're doing?
it is already a big part of learning today for kids.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I love that. Get help. And I think, we're prideful. Humans are prideful. We all are. And I think it's hard to admit when you maybe don't know all the research. Of course you don't know all the research. I mean, it's a massive pile of information. So I think that's really nice. Get help and lean on networks, lean on PD, find people where you can. And I think it's also a great way to end things today too, Carol. Thank you so much for being here, for joining us. It was a fantastic episode. I loved hearing the story. I loved seeing what it sounds like and how it functions in a school really well, and how the schools really sounds like it's come together on all different levels to sort of face this together. It's probably been an exciting time for a lot of the teachers in your school. And that's exactly what we're doing also at Ebalana Learning. So if anyone's curious, we've written a lot of these professional development courses that Carol has mentioned that they're trying to do internally, on literacy, on ethics, around safeguarding, and then also breaking down all of the approaches to teaching and what does this look like in personalizing learning and differentiation. And we're really trying to help schools once again become more proactive with this. So if you ever want to get in touch, please feel free to do so. And Carol, was a wonderful episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Did you have any last words that you wanted to add?
No, thank you for giving me this opportunity to just talk through the journey that we've been on. It helped me reflect that, wow, we've actually done a lot and come a long way. At times you often feel as though you don't, you're so far behind everyone else, but we've come a long way. We've still got a long way to go, and it was great to have that opportunity to share where we are.
Thank you so much, Carol, for sharing. Thanks for being here, and thanks to everyone for listening, and we'll hope to see you at the next episode. You've just listened to the AI in IB Schools podcast, hosted by Ebalana Learning. At Ebalana Learning, we help your school stay ahead of rapid technological change, cutting through that AI clutter with ethical, sustainable guidance rooted in international school values. Founded by veteran IB educators, we've designed the world's first fully articulated K-12 continuum AI curriculum, ready to run as either a standalone program or threaded into existing subjects. And we offer access to practical professional development, delivered in person, virtually, or self-paced, that upskills every member of your staff. Ebalana is here to ensure your school becomes AI-informed, AI-safe, and AI-empowered, enabling your students to think critically, act responsibly, and innovate with purpose. Let's talk about your school. Send us an email at info@ebalanalearning.com. We'll see you next time.